Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're well. Now, it's that time of year where we can start sowing onions from seeds. Now, I have mentioned in recent videos that over the last 2 or 3 years, especially here, I've been growing onions from sets, but I've discovered that here in particular, doing it from sets doesn't help me with regards to storage. So I've decided to do them from seed for the very first time. So I hope you're going to follow me on my journey as I do just that. Now the thing is, planting onion seeds isn't as simple as it sounds. You need to do a little bit of research. So the upcoming video is all about just that. And hopefully it's going to show you a better way of doing things, because it's not as simple as it sounds. You can't just buy a packet of onion seeds, sow them and get onions. There's more to it. So let's take a look at that video and then we'll come back to here afterwards. So onions, a versatile and flavourful vegetable, and they're a staple in many kitchens around the world. And they can be enjoyed raw, cooked, or even pickled. And roasting onions can also add an extra sweetness. And if you want to pickle them, you could try using balsamic vinegar instead of more traditional vinegars for a different taste altogether. They're so versatile and add depth and complexity to a wide range of dishes, making them a popular staple in all our kitchens. Often chopped onions with garlic, celery and carrots sweated down in a pan are the beginnings of a great base to many dishes. Now, growing onions at home is a rewarding experience and allows you to enjoy fresh, homegrown onions all season long. But choosing the right onion is very important. This is because there are 3 main types, which are based on the number of daylight hours they require to form bulbs. Types, not varieties. So we can divide them into these types: short day, long day, and intermediate day onions. So short day onions, such as Walla Walla Sweet and Copra, are best suited for warmer climates with shorter days. While long day onions, such as Yellow Globe and Red Barkley Sweet, thrive in cooler climates with longer days. So the intermediate day onions, such as Sweet Spanish and Red Creole, can be grown in a wider range of climates. Growing onions from sets or seeds. These are the 2 main methods for growing the onions that we can choose from. Which is better? Onion seeds offer a wider variety of options, but they take longer to mature and are more susceptible to damping off. Onion sets, however, are immature bulbs and they can be planted earlier and mature more quickly, but they offer a more limited variety. Sets are also prone to producing what are called scapes. The scapes are the stems of the bulb that, if left unattended, can go on to produce the flower and ultimately the seeds of the plant. They can be removed and they're edible, but once formed, make it harder to be able to store for long periods of time. We also need to think about the soil preparation and also its fertilisation. Onions prefer well-drained, fertile soil with a slightly acidic pH between 6 and 6.8. To begin prepping your soil, add some compost or well-rotted manure to improve its structure and also its drainage. You can add a balanced fertiliser containing nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, NPK, in a ratio of 5-10-10 or 10-10-10, and it should be applied every 4 to 6 weeks. If, like us, and you prefer organic fertilisers, you can make a compost tea or fish emulsion, and that can be applied every 2 to 3 weeks. We also apply a good layer of wood or potash from our wood burner from over the winter into the beds that we will be using. We find it's a great resource of extra nutrients, but make sure that you've been burning untreated woods and don't add any coal ash either. Planting onions is fairly straightforward. If using sets, they can be planted in the fall for a spring harvest or in the early spring for a fall harvest. Choice is yours. When planting sets, you need to space them 4 to 6 inches apart. If you get them in the ground before your first frost date, they won't mind being there over the winter. They like a bit of cold. When you're sowing onion seeds in your modules, and if you're not multi-sowing, then thin them to 4 to 6 inches apart, just like the sets, once they've germinated. And come spring, they can be transplanted just like any other veggies. We always need to consider pest and disease controls as well. They're generally pest resistant, but they can be affected by things such as thrips and onion maggots or allium leaf miner. To control them, we can use road covers or an insecticidal soap. We have a recipe on the channel for our organic insecticidal soap, and we'll leave you a link in the description below. Onions can also be subject to diseases such as downy mildew and white rot. As mentioned in the past, to prevent diseases, rotate your crops and avoid planting onions in the same location in consecutive years. Now we can look at harvesting the onions. Basically, they're ready to harvest when the tops have fallen over and the bulbs feel firm. If you're planning on storing them over the winter, wait until the tops have completely dried out. Once that's done, store the onions in a cool, dry place with great ventilation. Green onions can be harvested by cutting the tops, and bulb onions can be stored for several months. As we've said, growing onions at home is a rewarding experience. It's going to allow you to enjoy the freshest, tastiest onions you can possibly get. And with proper care, you can harvest a bountiful crop that will keep you supplied with onions all through the season. We hope you found that interesting. So who'd have thought it? Onion seeds require a little bit of thought before we sow them. Now, if you go back to the seed germination video that I did recently, it will tell you in there that you need to think about your sowing depth of the seed. And a great way to look at it is to think to yourself, you take the diameter of the seed and then you want to cover it with twice as much soil to get it to germinate. So a bean that big, you want to put in that much. And then a tiny little seed like a strawberry seed that you can't see, you just want to put it on the surface and perhaps not even cover it with anything at all. So the video all about seed germination tells you that you need to be putting your seed into your soil or potting mix twice the diameter of the seed itself. So in the case of an onion seed, it's such a small thing, you just want it on the surface with a very, very slight dusting on it, and away you go. So the video is showing you how to sow them and the conditions and the types of onions that you want to think about having. What I will be doing with mine is two things. I'm going to be sowing them individually in modules, but I'm also going to multi-sow them in blocks. So I'm going to put them in, say, 5 or 6 seeds each time, and then when they're ready to transplant, we will be out in the garden and in their final growing spaces, and I'll be showing you how to transplant them and then how I'm going to be using those as they grow throughout the year. Because if I end up with, say, let's say 4, so it's easy to show you, I've got 4 seeds that have germinated, I can harvest the 2 from the outside to leave me with another 2 there to continue going. So the ones on the outside I can pull away or harvest and use the spring or green onions, no problem whatsoever. So I've got an extra crop, and then allow those 2 to mature. And then as they get a little bit bigger, I can remove one and leave the final one in position to continue going to full harvest. So it's going to be an interesting time for me. I'm a little bit worried. Do I grow them from sets or do I grow them from seed? Well, I've made the decision to grow them from seed. Do I throw some sets in just in case it doesn't work? That's the dilemma. I'm not going to. I'm just going to go with the seed side of stuff. Because at the end of the day, having seen that by using the sets hasn't really given me a decent crop to store, I don't see the point. So I'm just going to focus on the seeds. I'm going to multi-sow and I'll be transplanting them out, and you can join me in the garden when I do that later in the year. But for now, take care and I'll catch you very soon.